tight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. This is part 2 of my view of the London Muslim terror attack. I call it the second bite of the cherry. This time from an Israeli terrorist expert, Aaron Cohen, who was interviewed again on Fox and Friends June 4. Now, because we don't have the First Amendment in Canada, and I will keep saying that until we do something equivalent therein, all I will say is this: it is in his own words, and for you to comment.
What makes this threat from the latest attack different than what happened in these other areas? We want to bring in Aaron Cohen, former member of the Israel's Special Operations Counter-Terrorist Unit and founder of Cherries, which is a leading manufacturer of law enforcement products for terrorism readiness. Aaron, good to have you here on the show. We're talking about this: cars, vans, knives. How do you plan for that? How do you stop that?
You need armed police officers to be able to fire at the vehicles the moment that one of these terrorist attacks are underway. As far as the bridge goes, there is a way to insulate it. You need uniformed police officers at both ends of a national structure, such as the London Bridge. And you can have concrete bollards, which you'll see in front of federal buildings here in the U.S., which will separate the truck that was traveling at 50 miles an hour from being able to actually hit the pedestrian. So that's one approach that I would take. The other approach that I would take, again, involves multiple layers. For me, and where I come out with this thing is all about the defense. And the reason why is we're putting a lot of pressure on ISIS in Iraq and Syria. That's going to force all of this terror to start curdling inside of Europe. Europe is literally a continent under siege. We've seen it. You just named off all those attacks. The British police need to be armed. The patrol-level police. There has to be guns to be able to fire at somebody who's so erratic that they're stabbing, driving, running over people. We're lucky there wasn't a machine gun on one of these guys' hands. Yeah. It would have been even more deadly. In those situations, though, you have to be able to escalate your level of response to meet the lethal attack. And if that's not congruent, here's how we look at it in Israel. For every second you waste, another innocent person is killed. For every round that you miss when you're responding to a terrorist, another person's killed. So you have to meet it with lethal force.
Yeah, you know, Theresa May did say something. She said, the threat is greater than it's ever been when it comes to terrorism, but we need to keep living our lives. I think that's a great message. But how do we practice that? Because every time we wake up with another attack that happened on innocent people as they were just walking across the London Bridge, I mean, now you go into a restaurant, you look over your shoulder, you're always just wondering if someone is there or if something could possibly happen. How do we change our minds, Aaron, so that we can live in peace?
Stop giving people a sense of security and start providing real security. When people know that they're being protected and that their governments are doing what our government does in Israel. Israel had one terror attack on an airline in the 70s. It was the last time. It never happened again. The Israeli people demanded it. And so what we've learned with terrorism is that it's completely psychological. And what needs to happen, and I've been saying this for a long time, is we saw the Ariana Grande attack. That was a 30,000-person venue. Security at the end of these large-scale events scales down. Where was the security? We have to look at, in London in particular, Europe in particular, has to look at every potential target and either bring the private sector in, arm them, and put them in places where bags can be checked and weapons are visible. And some basic behavioral profiling is being done. Otherwise, the sense of, or the feeling that things are being taken care of is never going to be there. And when, when Prime Minister May says, well, we have to go on living our lives, all right, that's great. Give me some security. Right. It'd be great if you put it at my school and at my train station.
Well, Aaron, but there's always, you can't go everywhere with security. There's always going to be a choke point somewhere where people gather that is unsecure. So you say, as we go on the offense against ISIS in the Middle East, we're going to have to play more defense at home. I think a lot of people in London, the U.S. today say, I want to go on offense here at home as well. How do you go on offense against this threat to mitigate it so we're not having to check every bag everywhere?
I agree with you. Look, the great late General is Moshe Dayan. Look, you can't protect every pipeline. You can't protect every civilian. You can't protect every person 24 hours a day. It's impossible. But what you can do is you can exact a very high price for those who wish to attack our way of freedom and our way of thinking. And that's done through psychology. Let me tell you something. The only thing that jihadists, and I was in plain clothes for many years in Israel, working against terrorism. The only thing I can tell you that jihadists that truly works with them is fear. The only thing they are afraid of is fear. And until fear becomes part of our doctrine, and that's the essence, and that's the fabric of counterterror, means to put terror on the terrorist. Until the terrorist is put on the run, which they're not right now, then we are in fact
Aaron,
losing.
you're right. So they respect fear, yet we respond to these attacks with flowers and teddy bears and memorials and tears. How do we turn our society into a place, because Israel has done this in many ways, where we're steely-eyed, where we look back at this threat and say, we're not afraid because we're strong, because we're tough, and we're going to put fear in your heart and defeat you? How do you change the society that's gone soft?
Great question. If I was in charge of counterterror operations in London, and I would make it start raining search warrants. That's the first thing. I would be kicking down every door that smelled anything that caused an endermal reaction on the back of my neck, which caused the hair to raise. And I'm talking about warrants, and I'm talking about judges and laws, and this counterterror fight is as much as it is about tone. The laws have to reflect the tone of the collective nationally. I would want warrants to start raining down on me, so me and my agents can start putting pressure on those 20,000 potential would-be jihadists.
Well, Aaron Cohen, you know what you're talking about. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Aaron, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. All right, coming up, we talked to an eyewitness to that London terror attack.
But first, President Trump.
You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you will find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, Gab, and email. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all my morning moments on Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. You can find all my podcasts and all my morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.